This is the first podcast for the Stroke Survivors series brought to you by the March of Dimes and Disabilities BC. My name is Perry Cook, and I'm a stroke survivor of November 4th, 2019. What this podcast is about will be a series of probably 10 podcasts and webinars presented to stroke survivors, caregivers, healthcare workers, medical professionals, and family and friends of stroke survivors. The concept is that when I had a stroke, and I'm 55 years old, so I'm kind of a old young stroke survivor, and people realize that stroke survivors come in all ages. And we're trying to determine some information to present to people and to see how we can do this properly and get information and get answers. One thing we look at there, we call stroke survivors, not stroke victims, because stroke survivors is we survived. We didn't die, and we're here, and now we have to refocus and readjust our life accordingly. With a stroke survivor, there's many things you learn to do again, many things you have to do again, many things you have to change that how you knew what happened before in the past, which is difficult. You have changes that come through family, through friends, through your dealing with spouse, caregivers, work, life in general. Everything changes. Plus, we're in the middle of this pandemic, and that thing makes things even more interesting. So we are survivors. We survived this stroke. We survived this major medical situation, and we go forward now in life. But we always have a concern of the past and moving forward in the future. Most stroke survivors come in all shapes, sizes, age ranges, and have different situations. Some people have difficulty talking. Some people have problems pronunciation, enunciation. Some people stutter and sound that they can't make words properly and go forward. And it's a variety. Some people have physical aspects. Some people have physical difficulties. Some people have mental difficulties. There's a wide variety. You can look at someone and say, hey, are you a stroke survivor? Everyone's different. What we'll have on this podcast and webinars and other factors is sharing of information of who we are, what we can do, and how we can provide different ideas and different concepts to people. And you can say, what we're looking at is here's some information, may be beneficial to you as a stroke survivor, a stroke victim, or family victims or family professionals. It's a wide variety. You want to touch on as many aspects of a stroke and how to deal with it. So the theory and the idea of this website or this podcast and these webinars is I've had a stroke, now what? What the hell do I do? There's other terms that were more fun, like some swear words involved, but I thought to make it nice and clean and palatable to others. In this, we'll be bringing professionals in who can give you some information. This could be lawyers, some legal issues, disability with work, disability for healthcare, fighting insurance people, which is always fun, company, government, healthcare professionals we'll bring in. We'll bring in professionals who can deal with you from a holistic point of view. And I mean holistic, the aspect of mental, physical, and emotional. Caregivers and services for them. We'll be looking at changes in your life and looking at your new lease of life, moving forward. Anything else of interest in aspects of a stroke survivor. Why is this important? I've been attending the young stroke survivors based in BC now for 4 or 5 months. And this was brought forward to us through, this position, this podcast webinar thing through the March of Dimes and Disability BC. The young stroke survivors in our group range from 18 to 60. These are people who are working. No two strokes are alike. People have had similar strokes and similar aspects of their stroke and similar things that come to play in their stroke, but there's no two stroke victims are the same. We all have different, results, all have different things have happened. We've all had different outcomes. We've all had different, problems that have arisen from this. So everyone's different. No two people are the same. We do have similar situations that come, the type of stroke we've had, the results we've had. Some things are medical, some things are mental, some things are physical, some things are emotional. So it's that aspect we look at that are very important. Who am I? And why am I here? Well, I'm a male, 56, but I was 55, 54 when I had my stroke. I was a executive, I'm still an executive with a telecommunications firm. I had a stroke and maybe it could have been prevented, who knew? Mine was dictated through stress of a divorce that was happening. It was very ugly, and I wasn't eating well. I was probably drinking too much. I wasn't taking care of myself, and my blood pressure was very, very high. I went into a situation. I was going through a divorce that was very ugly and not very good. I was dealing with the divorce in the wrong way. I wasn't expressing my emotions, wasn't outletting anything. In that aspect, I was not laughing, not crying, and not getting mad. I wasn't releasing any emotions and keeping it all bottled in, like a typical man. Yes. I was running about 30 to 40 kilometers a week. I was cycling about 30, 40 kilometers a week. But I was not releasing that certain thing that was helping me relieve stress. I went to California to celebrate my divorce that was being settled before we went to court, a week before we went to court. Went there on the Sunday night. It was a holiday, vacation. Went for a nice little 5K run on the Monday. Tuesday morning, I realized something's not right. And I went outside, I screamed and yelled, and to see, I knew something was slurring. I knew that slurring wasn't talking right. The concept, if you see on TV, someone's having a stroke is they're slurring their words. They had maybe eyesight problems, couldn't see in front of them. Maybe was sounding drunk, was a common one. Unable to move physically, couldn't raise their hands above their heads, is a common one. So I walked to the hospital about 2 kilometers away, and I checked into the hospital, and they said, "Oh, I think I'm having a stroke." Why did I think that? I remember the commercial from TV with a man sitting around the kitchen table. And his wife says, "Honey, are you having a stroke?" She says, "Put your hands above your head. Do the ABCs." I thought, something wasn't right. I walked to the hospital and I checked myself in. I said, "I think I'm having a stroke." Suddenly, they moved pretty quickly. And my blood pressure was consistent 225 over 120, which is probably a little bit high. I was put on a kind of a code blue, put in an emergency, and I was being looked after by doctors and nurses. And the thing that scared me the most is, I'm a big guy. I was, probably 240, 250, 6'2", big guy, strong. They said, Mr. Cook, we're going to try to save you. And that scared the crap out of me. Then they asked me, who is your next of kin? I'm like, I can barely say my name. And they say, do you have a DNR? Do not resuscitate. So I let my emotions out. I cried like a baby. And luckily, I had some friends who I called before I went to the hospital. Says, I think I may be having a stroke. Check to see if I have benefits. So I'm in California. And my friend said, yeah, don't worry about it. You get to the hospital. I'll take care of that. And I said, okay, great. Don't call anybody. Yeah, well, he violated my privacy. He called everybody he knew. And next thing I know, I had family and friends reaching out to me and trying to make sure I was successful. I spent, I don't know, I think it was 2 days in emergency in California at Tri-Cities Medical Center in Carlsbad, California, near San Diego. They treated me phenomenal. I had insurance, which is great. 2 days there, and then I guess 2 weeks in the telemetry department, which is the heart and stroke ICU. And then I spent my third week in rehab recovery. The problem is for myself, like I said, I ran in 2019, I ran 2 half marathons. In 2018, I ran 3 half marathons. Probably, and I was told by the doctors that the concept I was in shape or kind of in shape, that saved my life. I was paralyzed pretty good for my right hand, my right side. I had the left side, I had an isometric stroke. At 225, they figured if I would have hit 230 in the blood pressure, my head would have went boom, and I would have died before I hit the floor. And that would have been, they figured a half an hour to an hour. So I was lucky. I was lucky who I was, and I got help, and I recognized I seen something going on in the problem. So at the hospital, they did rehab with me, and I thought, I'll be out of here in a week. This is nothing for me. I'm strong. I run half marathons. I cycle. I speed skate. In Prince George, I was speed skating. I ski. I do all this stuff. Very active. Play hockey 4 times a week. I'm a man. I can do it. I can be back out there right away. Yeah. Good luck. Didn't happen. I was paralyzed my right side for the first 2-3 weeks. I had phenomenal support from family and friends. Within 2 days of being in the hospital, I had my sister come down from Montreal, who is an ER research nurse in Montreal. So she shows up in California, and suddenly the doctors, nurses, everyone listens to her, which is quite nice. And they were taking me rehab. The staff was phenomenal there because I was what you call a motivated, determined patient. I wanted to get better. I wanted to be out. I wanted to do something right away. Guess what? I could barely walk 5 feet. I could barely walk to the washroom, which was 2 feet away. I had no strength, no energy, no nothing. So I spent 2 weeks in the telemetry unit. I had my mother come down from Edmonton. My sister came down from Calgary. The research nurse came from Montreal. They were there for me for the first 2.5 weeks. I spent the last week in California in the rehab unit. Not technically in the rehab unit because I didn't have rehab insurance, but I was a motivated patient, and the staff loved me because I was always willing to walk, always willing to do rehab. I would do cardio, I would do leg lifts, I would do arm stretches, anything I could do in my hospital bed. I'd always constantly be working out. And so I spent month of November in California. And of course, not once did I get to go outside to get the sunshine. I think I went outside once for lunch. Then I had great insurance. I'll give a shout out to Industrial Alliance Insurance. They were my supporter, and they went to bat for me many, many times when the hospital in California said, "Well, we should do this. We